Most of us go through life thinking we know who we are, what we want, and what we're capable of. We carry beliefs about ourselves, beliefs about the world, and beliefs about what is possible. But here's the thing. Most of the time, those beliefs are not ours. They are handed down to us, shaped by experiences we barely remember, reinforced by people whose intentions may have been well-meaning, but whose understanding was limited. And somewhere along the line, many of us adopt what I call a losing philosophy. We start believing that we are not enough, that success is for others, that circumstances determine our outcomes. We accept these ideas as truth, and without realizing it, we allow them to guide every decision we make. Identifying a losing philosophy is not easy. It's uncomfortable. It requires a kind of honesty that most people shy away from. Because to see your own limiting beliefs clearly, you must look at your life objectively, without excuses, without blame. You must ask yourself questions that make you squirm. Questions like, am I really living or am I just surviving? Do I pursue things because they excite me or because I'm supposed to? Am I following my own convictions or am I repeating patterns I inherited? And when you answer honestly, you may find that the philosophy guiding your life is not serving you. In fact, it may be holding you back. Think about it for a moment. Every person who feels stuck, every person who struggles to move forward is guided by a philosophy, whether they know it or not. And it's usually a philosophy that tells them to play it safe, to settle for less, to avoid discomfort. It whispers, you're not ready yet, you don't deserve this, or that's just how life is. And over time, those whispers become a narrative, a story we tell ourselves so consistently that we believe it is unchangeable. This is how losing philosophies entrench themselves. They are subtle, pervasive, and invisible until you shine a light on them. Here's the key. Losing philosophies are not external. They are internal. They are not about what the world does. To you, they are about how you interpret what the world does to you. They are the lens through which you view reality. And if that lens is cracked, blurry, or distorted, your entire perception of life is distorted. And because perception drives action, a flawed philosophy guarantees flawed results. But the first step to reprogramming that philosophy is simple. Identify it. Ask yourself, what bell? IFs am I holding that are limiting me? What stories am I telling myself about who I am and what I can achieve? And here's the challenge. You must be brutally honest. Don't settle for the easy answers. Don't say, I'm just not lucky, or it's just the way things are. Those are excuses, not answers. Look deeper. You may discover that your losing philosophy is rooted in fear, the fear of failure, the fear of judgment, the fear of stepping into uncertainty, or it may be rooted in doubt, that quiet voice that says, I can't, every time you consider taking a risk. Or it could be rooted in complacency, the belief that comfort is more important than growth. Whatever it is, you have to see it for what it is, because only then can you change it. And here's something important. Identifying your losing philosophy is not about guilt or self-blame. It's not about beating yourself up for believing something that is limiting. Every human being carries beliefs that no longer serve them. That is normal. That is part of the human experience. The difference between people who succeed and people who struggle is not that one group has never had a losing philosophy. It's that the first group has the courage to confront it, to examine it, and to replace it with something that empowers them. Consider for a moment the people you admire, the ones you consider successful or inspiring. Ask yourself how many of them started their journey believing they were destined to fail. How many of them doubted themselves, questioned their worth, or struggled with fear? Almost all of them. What made the difference? Is that they recognized those beliefs for what they were. They identified the losing philosophy, and then they refused to let it define them. They acknowledged it, dissected it, and then made a conscious choice to adopt a new philosophy, one that said, I am capable, I am worthy, I can do hard things. So how do you start identifying your losing philosophy in practical terms? Begin with reflect. Spend time alone with your thoughts. Ask yourself what drives your decisions and why. Notice the language you use when you talk to yourself. The words you choose are revealing. Do you say, I can't, I'm not good enough, it's too late for me? Those are clues. They are signposts pointing to beliefs that are holding you back. Then trace those beliefs back to their source. Ask yourself to be. Here did this idea come from? Often you'll find that it's not a reflection of reality, it's a reflection of someone else's expectations, someone else's limitations, or some old experience that no longer applies. And here's the paradox. Identifying a losing philosophy is uncomfortable because it forces you to face truths about yourself that you may have avoided for years. But discomfort is necessary. Growth requires it. Change requires it. If you want to reprogram your life, if you want to live a life defined by purpose and achievement, you must start by being honest about the thoughts, habits, and stories that are holding you back. Only then can you take the next step, creating a philosophy that propels you forward instead of keeping you stuck. Remember, every journey toward change beggy. NS with awareness. Until you see the philosophy guiding your life, you cannot change it. And once you do see it, something amazing happens. You realize that you are not a victim of circumstance. You are not trapped by fate. You have the power to decide what you believe, what you value, and ultimately what you can achieve. That is the first step to moving from a life defined by limitation to a life defined by possibility. So today, I challenge you to look inside yourself and ask the hard questions. What beliefs are running your life without your permission? What stories are you telling yourself that are no longer true? What whispers of fear, doubt, or complacency have you accepted as fact? And when you find them, don't run, don't ignore them, name them, acknowledge them, and hold them up to the light. Because awareness is power, and power is the foundation of change. Identifying your losing philosophy is not a one-time exercise. It's a habit. It's a commitment to self-awareness, to reflection, and to growth. But the moment you recognize it, the moment you admit it exists, you open the door to transformation. You can no longer hide behind excuses or comfort. You can no longer blame CI, circumstance, or other people. You now have the clarity to choose differently, to act differently, and to live differently. And that ultimately is the essence of reprogramming a losing philosophy. It starts with seeing it clearly, naming it honestly, and refusing to let it control your life any longer. Once you've identified the beliefs that are holding you back, the next step is to understand where they came from. Because here's the truth. Most of the philosophies we carry, especially the ones that limit us, are inherited. They are taught, absorbed, and reinforced long before we even knew what success or failure really meant. They are passed down from parents, teachers, peers, and society at large. They seep into our minds through repetition, suggestion, and sometimes even through silence. And if you want to truly reprogram a losing philosophy, you must go back and understand its origin. Think about it. Every belief, no matter how small, has a source. Every doubt you carry, every fear, every limitation has a beginning. And if you can trace it back, if you can see where it started, you gain a powerful advantage. Perspective. Perspective is what allows you to separate yourself from and belief, to see it for what it truly is, and to recognize that it does not define you. Most people never do this. They live their whole lives repeating patterns they never questioned, acting on beliefs they never examined. And so, their losing philosophy becomes invisible, yet omnipresent. It shapes their choices, their relationships, their careers, and ultimately their lives. To understand the origin of your beliefs, you need to ask yourself questions that go deeper than surface level reflection. It's not enough to say, I'm just afraid of failing. You need to ask, why am I afraid of failing? Who taught me that failure is dangerous? When did I start believing that my worth is tied to my success? Sometimes the answer is obvious. Maybe you grew up in an environment where mistakes were punished, not celebrated. Maybe you were surrounded by people who discouraged risk or labeled ambition as arrogance. Maybe a single experience in your childhood convinced you that you were not capable of achieving more. Other times, the origin is hidden, buried beneath layers of experience, and you have to uncover it. And here's what's fascinating. When you trace your losing philosophy to its origin, you often discover that it is rooted in someone else's limitations, not yours. Many of the beliefs that hold us back were never ours to begin with. They were inherited from people who themselves were constrained by fear, doubt, or societal expectations. And yet, because we accepted them as truth, we allowed them to dictate our actions. Understanding this allows you to step back and say, this is not my philosophy, it is borrowed. And now I have a choice, I can keep it or I can let it go. Understanding the origin also teaches you compassion, both for yourself and for those who influenced you. It's easy to feel shame or frustration when you realize that your beliefs have limited you. But the truth is, everyone carries these invisible forces. Your parents, your teachers, your mentors, they did the best they could with what they knew. They shaped you with intention, but also with their own limitations. Recognizing this allows you to release blame and take responsibility for your own growth, because once you understand the origin, you reclaim control. You are no longer a passive recipient of inherited beliefs. You become an active creator of your philosophy. Let me give you an example. Imagine someone who grew up believing that wealth is bad or that ambition is selfish. Maybe their family struggled financially and money was always a source of tension. Maybe their parents emphasized humility to the point where striving for success felt wrong. That belief, instilled at a young age, can become a losing philosophy. I shouldn't want more. I shouldn't aim higher. And yet, if you trace it back, you see that it originated from protection, from care, from a desire to shield you from disappointment or failure. Understanding that allows you to separate the intent from the impact. You realize, I understand why I was taught this, but it doesn't serve me anymore. And the moment see that clearly, transformation becomes possible. Another powerful aspect of understanding origin is recognizing patterns. Many of our losing philosophies are reinforced over time through repeated experiences. If you grew up believing you weren't capable, you may have avoided challenges, and every time you avoided a challenge, the belief was reinforced. If you were told you weren't enough, you may have sought validation externally, and when it didn't come, the belief strengthened. By understanding the origin and the pattern, you see how the philosophy gained traction, how it shaped your behaviors, and why it has been so difficult to break. Knowledge is power. Once you understand the mechanics of how a belief took root and grew, you can start dismantling it piece by piece. And here's critical insight. Understanding the origin is not just about looking backward. It's about creating a foundation for moving forward. When you understand where a limiting belief came from, you gain clarity on what needs to change. You gain insight into which behaviors, habits, and thought patterns are rooted in old programming, and which ones are aligned with your true potential. Without this understanding, any attempt to reprogram yourself will be superficial at best. You might adopt temporary strategies, but the old philosophy will resurface under pressure. Understanding origin ensures that your change is deep, lasting, and authentic. This process requires patience and courage. It's not comfortable to revisit old wounds, old fears, or old regrets. It's tempting to make excuses or to dismiss the exercise as unnecessary. But growth is never easy. Transformation requires us to confront the past without letting it control the future. It requires us to face the narratives we inherited and decide which ones deserve to remain and which ones must be replaced. It's a journey of self-discovery, of peeling back layers until you reach the truth beneath. And the beauty of this journey is how it also fosters empathy. As you understand your own limiting beliefs, you start to see them in others. You begin to understand why people act, react, and respond the way they do. You see that behavior is rarely random. It is informed by history, by experiences, by philosophies that have been carried for years, sometimes generations. This awareness changes the way you interact with the world. Why? I've become more compassionate, more patient, and more intentional. And at the same time, you become more empowered because you are no longer bound by the beliefs of others. So take the time to understand the origin of your losing philosophy. Trace it back, examine it, ask hard questions, discover the experiences, people, and moments that shaped it. Recognize the difference between the intent bay, end it, and the impact it has had on your life. See the patterns it created. And most importantly, understand that once you see it clearly, you have the power to choose differently. You are not a product of limitation. You are a product of your awareness. And awareness is the gateway to freedom, growth, and possibility. Because when you understand origin, you gain perspective. And with perspective comes choice. You can keep living under the weight of inherited beliefs, or you can consciously build a philosophy that serves you, that empowers you, and that propels you toward a life of purpose. The choice is yours, and it begins with understanding. Once you have identified your losing philosophy and understood its origin, the next step is to shift your mindset. This is where the real transformation begins. Because no matter how aware you are of your limitations, no matter how well you understand the story that shaped you, your life will not change until your mind changes. And the type of change I'm talking about is not superficial. It's not about forcing yourself to think positively or pretending everything is fine. It's about fundamentally shifting the lens through which you view the world from one of scarcity to one of possibility. Scarcity is a mindset that whispers in your ear, constantly reminding you of what you lack. It tells you that opportunities are limited, that resources are finite, and that there is never enough time, talent, or luck to go around. Scarcity is the voice that says, you can't, you shouldn't, or it's impossible. It is a voice rooted in fear, in doubt, and in past experiences that left their mark. And when you listen to that voice, it becomes self-fulfilling. Scarcity limits your vision, your ambition, and your courage. It convinces you to settle for less, to play small, and to avoid risk. And over time, it shapes your reality in exactly the way it predicts, constrained, cautious, and controlled. Possibility, on the other hand, is the opposite. Possibility is the mindset that believes there is more than enough for everyone. It sees opportunities where others see obstacles. It approaches challenges not with fear, but with curiosity and creativity. Possibility is not naive. It doesn't ignore reality, but it refuses to be confined by it. Possibility is the mindset of those who achieve extraordinary things, not because the world is yes, why, or fair, but because they refuse to be limited by its boundaries. And the shift from scarcity to possibility is the shift from survival to growth, from hesitation to action, from limitation to potential. The first step in making this shift is awareness. You must become conscious of the language you use with yourself. Notice the thoughts that dominate your mind throughout the day. When you catch yourself saying, I can't, or I don't have enough, pause and reflect. Ask yourself, is this true? Or is this just a story I'm telling myself? Most of the time, these thoughts are not grounded in reality. They are echoes of fear, doubt, or past experiences. By simply noticing them, you take the first step toward freeing yourself from their control. Awareness is the beginning of possibility, Becca. You cannot choose a new path until you see the old one clearly. The second step is reframing. Reframing is the art of asking different questions and telling a different story. Instead of asking, why can't I do this? Ask, how can I make this happen? Instead of thinking, there isn't enough, ask, what opportunities exist that I haven't explored? Reframing is not about denying reality. It's about choosing to focus on potential instead of limitation. Every time you reframe a thought, you are exercising your ability to see possibilities where others see barriers. And over time, this becomes a habit, a new way of interpreting the world that naturally leads to action, innovation, and resilience. Action is the third and most crucial step. A mindset shift is meaningless unless it is REI, enforced by behavior. Possibility is not a concept you can meditate on and magically acquire. It is something you live. Every time you take action despite fear, every time you stretch beyond your comfort zone, you reinforce the belief that possibility exists. Start small. Take one step each day that challenges a scarcity-based thought. Perhaps it's reaching out to someone you admire, pitching an idea, learning a new skill, or simply committing to something you've been avoiding. Each action, no matter how minor it seems, rewires your brain. It proves to yourself that you are not limited, that there is more to explore, and that the world is not as constricted as scarcity would have you believe. Stories are also a powerful tool in this shift. Humans are wired for narrative, and the story you tell yourself about who you are and what you can achieve is a major determinant of your behavior. If your story is one of scarcity, it will keep you small. If your story is one of possibility, it will inspire courage, persistence, and creativity. Rewrite your story with intention. Remind yourself not only of your past accomplishments, but also of the potential you carry. Surround yourself with people who believe in possibility, not those who reinforce fear or limitation. Read stories of those who overcame impossible odds. Immerse yourself in narratives that expand your sense of what is achievable. Your environment shapes your thinking, and possibility grows in fertile ground. Another important aspect is gratitude. Scarcity often blinds us to what we already have. We focus on what is missing, what we lack, and what we wish were different. Gratitude, however, shifts attention to abundance. It reminds us that even in the midst of challenge, there are resources, skills, connections, and opportunities that we can leverage. Gratitude is not about complacency. It is about recognizing the tools and possibilities already at your disposal. When you practice gratitude consistently, your mind's begins to orient itself toward possibility naturally. Because you start seeing that the world is not empty. It is full of potential waiting to be realized. Possibility also requires courage. It asks you to take risks, to embrace uncertainty, and to step into discomfort. Scarcity seeks safety and control. Possibility thrives in curiosity and exploration. When you adopt a possibility mindset, fail. Fear is no longer a catastrophe. It is feedback. Obstacles become opportunities to learn and grow. You start to see setbacks not as proof of limitation, but as guideposts pointing you toward a better approach. This shift is profoundly liberating because it removes the fear that keeps most people paralyzed. Possibility is action-oriented, resilient, and expansive. Finally, remember that shifting scarcity to possibility is not a one-time event. It is a practice, a habit, a discipline. The mind will naturally drift towards scarcity because it is comfortable, familiar, and reinforced by fear. You must intentionally choose possibility every day. This requires reflection, reframing, action, gratitude, and courage. It requires surrounding yourself with influences that support possibility. And requires patience because deep change takes time. But the reward is immeasurable. A possibility mindset does not just change outcomes. It changes your experience of life itself. It makes you more creative, more engaged, more fulfilled, and more capable of achieving extraordinary things. So today, make the choice to see the world differently. Notice scarcity when it shows up. Question it. Refra. Me it. Take action that proves to yourself that possibility exists. Rewrite your story. Cultivate gratitude. Embrace courage. Surround yourself with those who expand your sense of what is achievable. And remember, this shift is not about pretending the world is easy or fair. It's about refusing to be constrained by the limitations your mind has inherited or imposed. It's about choosing to live in a world of potential rather than restriction. Because the moment you shift from scarcity to possibility, everything changes. Opportunities you never saw before become visible. Confidence replaces doubt. Courage replaces fear. And your life begins to unfold in ways that scarcity could never allow. This is the power of mindset, the power of perspective, and the power of choosing possibility over limitation. And it all starts with the decision to see differently, think differently, and act differently. Possibility is not something the world gives you. It is something you choose. And when you choose it consistently, it transforms everything. Once you have identified your losing philosophy, understood its origin, and shifted your mindset from scarcity to possibility, the next critical step is to program your life through action and small wins. Awareness, understanding, and mindset are powerful, but they alone will not change the trajectory of your life. Change only becomes real when it is lived, practiced, and reinforced through deliberate action. Philosophy, after all, is not just a set of ideas. It is a pattern of behaviors. Your beliefs shape your habits, and your habits shape your OU. If you want to replace a losing philosophy with a winning one, you must start acting differently even before you feel ready. Many people misunderstand this step. They believe that change comes from motivation alone, from inspiration, from a grand moment of clarity that suddenly transforms everything. But life doesn't work that way. Motivation is fleeting. It comes and goes like the tide. What endures is habit. What endures is repetition. What endures is the small, consistent actions that signal to your mind and body that a new philosophy is taking root. Each small win is a proof point, a demonstration that the old beliefs are no longer in control. And when you accumulate enough of these wins, your philosophy shifts naturally, almost imperceptibly, until one day you wake up and realize you are no longer the person you were yesterday. The first step in reprogramming through action is to start small. Don't attempt to overhaul your entire life overnight. That is a recipe for frustration and failure. Instead, identify one behavior, one habit, one action that aligns with the winning philosophy you want to adopt. Perhaps it is committing to learning something new every day. Perhaps it is reaching out to someone who inspires you. Perhaps it is taking one step toward a goal you've been avoiding for years. Whatever it is, make it manageable. Make it achievable. Make it something that produces a tangible sense of progress. Small wins matter because they build momentum, confidence, and credibility with yourself. Your mind will not believe in a new philosophy until it has evidence that it works. Small wins provide that evidence. Every action you take is a message to yourself. When you act in alignment with your new philosophy, you tell your mind, I am capable. I am resilient. I can create change. Conversely, when you fail to act, when you procrastinate, when you let fear dictate your choices, you reinforce the old philosophy. I can't. I am limited. I am stuck. That is why action is not just a step. It is the engine of transformation. You cannot think your way into a new philosophy. You must act your way into it. And the beauty of small wins is that they compound. One small victory leads to another, which leads to another until the momentum becomes unstoppable. Let me illustrate this with an example. Imagine someone who has always believed they are not good with people, that they cannot influence, cannot lead, cannot inspire. That belief has limited them for years. To reprogram it, they start small. They begin by initiating a conversation with a colleague, asking thoughtful questions, listening deeply. That's one small win. Then they volunteer to speak at a small team meeting, sharing an idea or perspective. Another win. Over time, each of these small actions proves to the mind that the old belief, "I can't," is false. Gradually, confidence grows, influence grows, leadership emerges. The new philosophy is no longer theoretical, it is lived and undeniable. This is how action and small wins reprogram your identity. Another crucial aspect of this step is consistency. One small win is powerful, but only repetition cements change. Your mind needs repeated proof that the new philosophy is valid. That's why habits are essential. Habits are the vehicles through which philosophy becomes behavior. If you want to reprogram your philosophy, you must design habits that reflect it. Create routines, rituals, and practice that reinforce your new beliefs. Celebrate progress, even if it seems minor. Recognize that consistency is far more important than intensity. It is better to take a small, meaningful action every day than to attempt a massive change once and burn out. Equally important is the willingness to iterate. Action does not always produce perfect results. Sometimes you will stumble, sometimes you will fail, sometimes the small win you thought would be transformative will feel inconsequential. This is normal. This is part of the process. Reprogramming a losing philosophy requires resilience, curiosity, and adaptability. Each action, whether it succeeds or fails, provides feedback. Each small win or setback is information that allows you to refine your approach. The key is not to be discouraged by imperfection, but to see every step as an opportunity to learn and grow. Action is both the proof and the teacher. Accountability is another tool that amplifies the power of action. When you share your goals, your small wins, and your progress with someone you trust, it strengthens your commitment. Accountability forces you to show up, even when motivation wanes, and it creates a social reinforcement that makes your new philosophy more real. Your friends, mentors, and colleagues can become mirrors, reflecting back the evidence that your new beliefs are becoming a reality. Social proof is a powerful catalyst because humans are wired to respond to connection and recognition. And here's something most people overlook. Small wins also reshape your emotions. Limiting beliefs are often rooted in fear, doubt, and frustration. Each small action you take dissolves a little bit of that emotional weight. Confidence grows, courage grows. The internal dialogue that once said, "I can't," begins to shift to, "I can" and "I am." Emotion drives behavior more than logic ever will, and small wins produce the emotional reinforcement needed to sustain lasting change. When your feelings align with why, our actions, your philosophy, is no longer theoretical. It is embodied, it is real, it is unshakable. Finally, remember that this process is cumulative. Reprogramming your philosophy is not a single event. It is a series of deliberate choices repeated over time. Each action and each small win builds upon the last, creating a ripple effect that transforms your identity. You may not notice the change day to day, but over months and years, the impact is profound. A person who once felt powerless now feels capable. Someone who once doubted their potential now acts with confidence. The philosophy that once limited them is replaced by one that empowers, inspires, and sustains growth. So, take action. Start small. Commit to one deliberate step today that aligns with the philosophy you want to add. Opt, celebrate it, repeat it, iterate, share it. Let each action be proof that you are not defined by your past, your fears, or your limitations. Let each small win be a building block in the architecture of your new identity, because philosophy is not changed by thought alone. It is changed by living it, by doing it, by proving to yourself every day that a new way of being is possible. And why? Do this consistently. When you build momentum through small wins, something extraordinary happens. Your confidence grows, your perspective expands, and your life begins to reflect the philosophy you have consciously chosen. You no longer need motivation to get started because action itself generates momentum. You no longer doubt your potential because evidence is all around you. And eventual. The new philosophy becomes who you are. It is no longer something you aspire to, it is the reality you live every day. Once you have identified your losing philosophy, traced its origin, shifted your mindset from scarcity to possibility, and begun reprogramming yourself through action and small wins, the final step is to anchor your philosophy in purpose. Because without purpose, even the most well-intentioned philosophy is fragile. Motivation fades, habits waver, mindset slips. Purpose is the foundation that gives your philosophy permanence. It is the reason that keeps you moving when the path is difficult, the compass that guides your choices when uncertainty clouds the way. Purpose is what turns action into meaning, effort into momentum, and philosophy into identity. Purpose is not just a lofty ideal or a vague statement about wanting to make a difference. Purpose is deeply personal. It is rooted in understanding why you do what you do and recognizing that what you do matters beyond just yourself. Purpose answers the question, why am I here and why does my contribution matter? It provides clarity in times of doubt and courage in moments of fear. When your philosophy is anchored in purpose, setbacks no longer derail you because you are tethered to something far larger than any obstacle. You operate not simply for temporary reward or recognition, but from a deep sense of meaning that sustains you over the long journey. To anchor your philosophy and purpose, start by seating on the values that define you. What principles matter so profoundly to you that you are unwilling to compromise them, no matter the cost? What causes, beliefs, or ideals resonate so deeply that you are willing to dedicate your energy and effort toward them? Purpose is aligned with these core values. It is not something you chase because others told you it is important. It is something that ignites your own inner fire. When your philosophy aligns with purpose, your actions, thoughts, and decisions naturally converge toward your highest potential. There is coherence, power, and direction. Stories are a powerful way to understand purpose. Think of the people you admire most. What do they have in common? Rarely is it talent alone. Rarely is it luck alone. What they share is a deep understanding of why they do what they do. They wake up with a mission, a reason to persist even when the odds are stacked against them. They understand that purpose is the difference between a life that is reactive and a life that is proactive. When philosophy is anchored in purpose, challenges are no longer meaningless. Obstacles are tests, feedback, and opportunities for growth. Work becomes more than a job. Learning becomes more than a task. Life itself becomes a vehicle for fulfilling something meaningful. Purpose also gives resilience. When you encounter setbacks, rejection, or failure, and you will, purpose reminds you why you began. It prevents you from giving up when the going gets tough. Philosophy without purpose is like a sail without wind. It looks good, but it does nothing. Purpose provides the force that propels you forward even when external conditions are unfavorable. It is what allows people to endure years of preparation, to face repeated failure, and to continue moving toward their vision when others would have given up. Purpose is the anchor that prevents your philosophy from drifting aimlessly in the storms of life. The process of discovering purpose is also instructive. It requires introspection, honesty, and courage. You must ask yourself questions that go beyond surface-level ambition. What contribution matters most to me? How do I want to be remembered? What impact can I have that transcends my immediate circumstances? These are not easy questions because they demand authenticity. They demand that you confront not only your aspirations, but also or limitations and fears. But the answers are transformative because they provide clarity, focus, and direction. Without this clarity, it is easy to revert to old habits, old fears, and old philosophies. Purpose ensures that the philosophy you're building is anchored to something enduring. Once you have clarity on your purpose, it is essential to integrate it into daily action. Purpose is not abstract, it is practical. Every decision, no matter how small, becomes a reflection of your commitment to your purpose. The way you spend your time, the way you treat others, the way you approach challenges, all are informed by purpose. This integration creates alignment between philosophy and action. Your beliefs are no longer hypothetical. They are tested, practiced, and validated through real life behavior. And as you act in alignment with purpose, your confidence grows, your influence expands, and your philosophy becomes inseparable from your identity. Anchoring philosophy and purpose also transforms your relationship with fear. When your actions are motivated by purpose, fear becomes a guide rather than a barrier. Fear signals that you are pushing boundaries, stepping into growth, and pursuing something meaningful. You no longer need to be paralyzed by fear because the significance of your purpose outweighs the temporary discomfort of risk. Courage, in this context, is not the absence of fear. It is acting despite fear, consistently with the knowledge that every step serves something greater than yourself. Purpose is the fuel for courage, and courage reinforces the philosophy you are cultivating. Equally, purpose fosters perseverance. Reprogramming a losing philosophy is not instantaneous. It is gradual, iterative, and sometimes painful. There will be moments when you question your progress, when doubt creeps in, and when old beliefs try to reclaim control. Purpose provides the reason to persist. It creates a long-term perspective that transcends immediate setbacks. It is what keeps people showing up day after day, year after year, even when results are slow or invisible. Purpose transforms philosophy from a temporary mindset into a lifelong commitment to growth, meaning, and contribution. Another remarkable effect of anchoring philosophy and purpose is that it amplifies impact. When your philosophy is aligned with purpose, your actions ripple outward. You inspire others not by telling them what to do, but by demonstrating what is possible. People are drawn to purpose. It is magnetic. They notice when someone operates from meaning rather than mere ambition. They respond to consistent integrity and clarity. By anchoring your philosophy in purpose, you not only transform your own life, but you also influence the world around you, creating a legacy of action, inspiration, and growth. Finally, anchoring philosophy and purpose ensures that your growth is sustainable. Many people achieve temporary success through sheer effort or strategy, but without purpose, that success is fragile. It can crumble under pressure, burnout, or distraction. Purpose provides continuity. It connects every decision to a broader why, ensuring that philosophy is not just a short-term fix, but a long-term compass. It transforms setbacks into lessons, challenges into opportunities, and ambitions into meaningful outcomes. When philosophy is rooted in purpose, it is resilient, flexible, and enduring. So today, as you consider the journey of reprogramming a losing philosophy, remember this: purpose is the anchor. Identify it, clarify it, integrate it. Let it guide your mindset, your actions, and your growth. Let it fuel courage when fear arises, perseverance when obstacles appear, and alignment when doubt creeps in. Your philosophy will no longer be a set of ideas floating in the mind. It will become your identity, your guide, and your legacy. Anchored in purpose, your philosophy is unstoppable, your growth inevitable. And why? Our life meaningful. Because when philosophy meets purpose, everything changes. Decisions become easier, challenges become surmountable, and your life begins to reflect not just what is possible, but what is meaningful. Your philosophy is no longer reactive, it is intentional. It no longer drifts with circumstance, it sails toward a vision you have chosen. And that ultimately is the power of maturing your philosophy in purpose. It transforms not only how you think, but who you are, how you live, and the impact you leave behind. As we come to the end of this journey, it's important to remember that reprogramming a losing philosophy is not a one-time event. It is a process, a deliberate choice, and a commitment to yourself. You have spent time identifying the beliefs that have held you back, tracing their origin, shifting your mindset from scarcity to possibility, and taking consistent action through small wins. You have explored the idea that philosophy is not merely what we think. It is what we do, what we choose, and ultimately who we become. And now, at the heart of it all lies purpose, the anchor that makes this transformation lasting, meaningful, and unstoppable. Think back for a moment to the losing philosophies you may have carried for years, those invisible forces that told you you're not enough, you can't, or this is just the way life is. For too long, those beliefs dictated your actions, your choices, and your results. But awareness is freedom. The moment you name those beliefs and recognize their origin, you separate yourself from them. You see that they were inherited, reinforced, and repeated, but they were never your ultimate truth. That clarity gives you a choice. It gives you the ability to decide that your philosophy will no longer limit you. It will empower you. Shifting from scarcity to possibility transforms how you approach life. It changes the questions you ask yourself from "why can't I?" to "how can I?" It replaces fear with curiosity, hesitation with courage, and doubt with creativity. Possibility opens doors that scarcity had kept closed, and it reminds you that your potential is far greater than you may have ever believed. But mindset alone is not enough. Philosophy is not a theory, it is practice. That is why action and small wins are so essential. Every deliberate step you take in alignment with your new philosophy reinforces it, proves it to yourself, and creates momentum that cannot be stopped. Habit, consistency, and courage compound over time, turning intention into identity. And yet, even action and wins are fragile without purpose. Purpose is the reason that sustains you when motivation fades. Purpose is the compass that guides you through uncertainty, the fire that keeps you moving when setbacks appear, and the anchor that ensures your philosophy is resilient. When your actions, your mindset, and your habits are rooted in purpose, they are no longer random. They are meaningful. They are directed. They are enduring. Purpose transforms philosophy from a set of abstract ideas into a lived reality, one that inspires not only your growth, but also the lives of those around. Why? As you leave this moment, remember this. You are not defined by the beliefs you inherited, by the fears that have held you back, or by the limits others have imposed. You are defined by the choices you make today, the actions you take tomorrow, and the philosophy you consciously cultivate in your life. Reprogramming a losing philosophy is not easy. It requires honesty, courage, reflection, and consistent action, but the reward is profound. It is freedom, it is growth, it is fulfillment, and it is impact. Your philosophy, once transformed, becomes your superpower. It shapes how you think, how you act, and how you influence the world. It allows you to live intentionally, lead courageously, and pursue what is meaningful. And the beautiful truth is this: the power to change it has always been within you. All it required was awareness, understanding, action, and purpose. Start today. Begin with one thought, one choice, one action, and step by step, small win by small win, your life will reflect the philosophy you have chosen, one of possibility, growth, and enduring purpose.